Hey friends, welcome back to Acre Homestead. We are in the new house and this is day one-ish of actual work on the new house. I was here the day after we did the tour, so if you want to see a tour of the new home, I will link that down in the description box. But we came in and we painted some paint samples on the walls because we are going to paint the entire house before we move in. We're going to paint ceilings, walls, and trim. I picked up at Sherwin-Williams a couple paint samples yesterday, and I thought we need to get these paint samples on the wall so they can dry, because the goal is to try to have this house painted before we move in. That's not the goal, that is happening. And so I've got 4 different colors. When Josh and I remodeled our first house, we painted the entire house. It was called Functional Gray, and there was Requisite Gray, which was like the lighter, and Alpaca Gray, which was the lighter one than that, because we want a warm gray tone. Josh and I do prefer the cooler tones like grays and blacks and whites, but these floors are warm and we want to make sure we go with a gray that's warm, because gray is one of those funny colors. It's actually the hardest color to find because it can go purple, blue, green, brown, all the colors. So I know the Functional grays at Sherwin-Williams are a pretty warm brown, but I thought I would try something new as well because we are going to paint the entire house. Let's go ahead and get a couple samples and try a couple things on the wall. And we're gonna do green in the bathroom, and so I got a couple different green swatches, but I did get one green sample. These are the 4 colors we're working with. When I look at it like this, they look pretty similar. This is Requisite and Functional. These were colors we had in our first house, so I know we like these colors, but I wanted to try these Mega Grayish and a new gray because they almost look, yeah, you can't even see it in this light, but this almost looked a little bit more brown, which I thought might go a little bit better with our flooring. So we're going to get these swatches on the wall and see if we can tell a difference between these colors. I just picked these paint samples up yesterday, so they should be nice and ready to go on the walls. I have a cheapo brush here. Doesn't even fit in my container. I didn't really think about that. Let's get this on the wall. I should have bought some of those really like 50-cent foam brushes, because this brush that I brought, I don't know where it came from, but it's losing bristles. So I'm gonna have to make sure I get all the bristles out before the paint dries. I have my 4 swatches, and I didn't just do it in this one room. I went ahead and I painted in 4 different areas. So we've got here, I wanted to do different lightings so that we could really choose a color. I think I'm gonna go back and I'm gonna get the lighter one of each one of these. This still clearly has to completely dry before we pick a color. I'm personally leaning towards this one, which is the, I can't remember the name of it, but it's not the one we had in our last house. These are the ones we had in our last house. But one, they should probably, I'm showing you the floor color with that so you can kind of see. See, I think that's more brown with that versus that's kind of more blue. Not sure. Josh is here and he's measuring the trim because there's quite a bit of trim in this house that's damaged, and or there was never trim that was put on, or there's mismatching trim. So this piece of trim right here does not match the rest of the trim that goes around the rest of the doors. So before we paint anything, we clearly want to fix all the trim. And Josh is very good at finish work. In our first house, we completely redid all the trim. We did custom trim, we did wainscoting. It was stunning. And so he's very, very good at this. So that's something that he can do. So tonight he's gonna measure, figure out everywhere that's missing stuff. I can show you a couple places. So that's one example, that door where it's just randomly different trim. I'm not sure why. Maybe it was all they had left at the store or something. This is different trim here than what is on this wall. So he's gonna wanna match this trim with that trim. This is also another color. It's a very, very dark green. The name of this color is, that color, oh wow, it looks darker in the video. It's called Secret Garden. I want a really rich green in here. We're gonna paint the beadboard down here bright white by Sherwin-Williams. I did have a couple other paint chips, but but I think they might be too dark, even though the one I have is pretty dark. This is the one I chose, and then I got these other greens, which are almost black, and they might be a little too dark. I'm gonna see how this dries, and then we'll go from there. But I think this green will go nice with this vanity in here and kind of have it be kind of farmhousey with a really bright white beadboard. I think that will look really nice. We also are going to have all of these replaced. These are all beige, and we're going to have all the light switch and outlet covers white. For that, we probably will have an electrician come in and do that because there are a ton of light switches. Josh could do it, but it would just take weeks and weeks and weeks to do it. I did do one more swatch in here with the gray. This is the kitchen, which has a completely different lighting than the other rooms. That is requisite, that is functional gray, a new gray, and I can't remember what the name of that one is. But we'll have to see how they dry, and then we'll go from there. That concludes what I'm doing here tonight. That was my only goal, was to get those paint swatches on the wall, and we will come back when we're back here working on the house. While I was gone at the beach, because I just got back from a girls' trip, Josh moved all the stuff from the shop into the shop here so we can get working on some of the projects we want to get working on before we move in. One of the main projects he was going to do was replace the trim and put the trim up where there is missing trim. If I come in here in the sunroom, you can see areas like right here where there is no trim around this window. And there are a couple places in the house where the projects just didn't get fully finished, which was fine. We knew that moving in, and we have done trim work, no problem. That was easy peasy. But there is about 4 different styles of trim in this house. And Josh, over the weekend, went to a trim specialty place in our town, and he went to Home Depot, Lowe's, all the big box stores, and he could not find the matching trim, which is a problem because we don't need more than 4 styles of trim in this house. We have a very specific style of trim we prefer, and we figured before we move in, if we are going to paint the entire house and the trim, we might as well go ahead, remove the trim, even though unfortunately it is really good quality trim, and we're gonna put in the house the style of trim that is our preference. We have pretty simple style, and it's not gonna be actually that much more work to remove the trim and put what we want, as opposed to if we kind of fixed all the pieces of trim around the house that need to be fixed. There are areas where there is no caulking around the trim, and this is going to be very easy to remove because you just take a pry bar and pull this off the wall. But there are areas in the house where it is caulked. So what we're going to have to do first, take a razor blade, run it along that caulk line, and then we can take a pry bar and remove this piece of trim. We brought the truck, so as we remove the trim, we can go ahead and get it loaded up here. Josh is taking the next week off, so all we're focusing on this week is getting this house demoed so that we can start putting it back together. We cannot actually order the trim until Monday because today is Sunday. So today's goal is remove all the trim in the entire house. We'll see if we can do it, measure everything, and so that on Monday morning we can order the trim. A little history on Josh and I is when we first got married, we purchased our first home in suburbia, and we wanted to have a garden and Josh wanted to have a shop, but those two things were not really realistic in our first home. I was able to have some container gardening in the back. I could grow some lettuce and some kale and herbs, and at one point I did grow some potatoes and carrots on my front porch because they got a little bit more sun. That was my biggest issue, was sun in our first house. But what we did do in that 4.5 years was we remodeled that entire house. We spent 4 years transforming that house, and we touched every single surface. And those are such valuable skills that we learned when we were there. At our current home, we learned the skills of gardening. Josh built me a beautiful irrigation system. I've spent 2 years, and now I'm on my 3rd year gardening. And I feel like both homes have been a culmination to this home where we have the skills to transform the inside, and we are going to have the skills to transform the outside and build a dream garden out there.
And it just feels like both of those things were meant to be, and they were times where we were supposed to be patient in learning those skills, because we didn't remodel the current home we're in because it just never felt like that was something we were supposed to do. And we took that time to work on the outside. What Josh is doing here, I've already talked about the trim, how we're redoing the trim, but we are also going to remove and replace all the hardware. One really cool thing is I can donate this hardware, both the knobs and the hinges, to Restore. I would love to be able to donate the trim to Restore as well, but they do not accept trim that has been used. And I understand that because that would be a lot of work. But I can donate the hinges and hardware because that can absolutely be reused, no problem. So all the hinges and hardware in this house are all a little bit different. And Josh and I have a style we're going for. In the next couple days, you'll see we're going to go shopping for the hardware. And we are going to have matching hardware, and I'm pretty excited about that. So we're taking the doors off because we're going to paint the doors as well so that they match the trim. So we figured it would just be easiest to go ahead and remove all the doors and hinges and doorknobs at one time. Here I am just showing you that the hinges were gold and the handles were silver. Now we're going to get set up so that we can cut down some of these really large trim pieces so we can fit them in the truck, because I am going to be taking this trim to the dump. I want to be able to fit as much in the truck as possible.
Safety first. I will take my gloves off before we start chopping this trim, but that trim is not fitting in here. And I want to try to get as much trim in the truck as we can before we take it to the dump. So let's go.
I have to say, this is so exciting that this is happening. The first home we purchased, we knew that we wanted more, and it just was a time and place at that house to learn the skills of remodeling. We didn't really know that that's what that house was meant to be for us, but that's what it was. We felt motivated to update it so that it would look pretty and aesthetically pleasing, but we only lived in it for about 6 months until the opportunity to purchase the house that we're in now with the garden and the shop came available. And that was something we absolutely couldn't pass up because those were two things that we have always wanted. And it was very sad leaving the house that we, made our home and made it look exactly how we wanted. But we knew that step needed to happen in order to continue to move forward for Josh and I. And we wanted to remodel. If you've been around here for a while, we did replace the roof, but that's something that had to be done, and we painted it. But we never got in there and totally transformed it to be our own because we took that time to learn how to garden, and there was only so much time and resources available to us. And the garden became the priority. And I think we absolutely made the right choice in that, because we got to meet each other and we created this beautiful community online through the garden. And it's just been a really beautiful thing. And so I just have to say, now that we have this home, it is super exciting that we get to now create the interior to look as beautiful as we were able to make the exterior look at our last home. So Josh now is removing these doors because these doors have mirrors on them, and I want to match these closet doors with the doors that are on all the doorways, and I don't really want mirrors in this bedroom in particular. So I went ahead and I asked him if he would go ahead and remove that, and I can donate those doors actually. So those are something that I can send to Restore.
We are making great progress. We have one bedroom completely done, and the hallway is 99% done. What I'm working on now is actually scraping the leftover caulk that's like the residual caulk. I have found this tool to work really well. You just find some caulk.
Josh and I were reminiscing as we started this day working together for the first time on our new house, and we were just reminiscing about how it felt so good to be back together again, working on transforming a space and turning this space into our home. And it felt good. It brought us back to kind of the beginning of when we got married and what we did for the first 4.5 years. And one really cool thing about this property, I kind of mentioned it when we did the tour, but we are farther out in the country for sure, because that is where you can get more land. but we are actually closer to a few family members. And as I was driving up to the new house in order to get ready for this work day, I realized I forgot some really important things. And 2 of those items were brooms, and we just called our family and they brought them right over. And so it's going to be really, really nice to be even closer to family than we are now.
It is 7:20 and we both are pretty hungry, so I am going to run and go pick up some food, and then Josh is actually going to start measuring all of the trim because we have to get up at 7. Well, we have to be at the trim place at 7:30 tomorrow to place our order for the trim so that it can be delivered on Wednesday, because they do first come, first serve, and the deliveries go out on Wednesday, and we want to be one of those first deliveries. So he needs to get that measured because it's going to take him quite a bit of time to measure the entire house for the trim. And I'm going to go run and get us some dinner so we can enjoy dinner. Now, because I was out of town, I did not have anything planned or prepared for dinner. While I was gone, Josh had lunches and breakfast because we did those breakfast freezer meals, and I had dinner all taken care of for him, but I did not think through all the way until today. Sometimes that happens, and sometimes you do have to get takeout, and that's what we're gonna do. But now that I'm home, Josh is taking this next week off, and we're gonna be here working for the entire week. I will see what I can find in my freezer for freezer meals. I'm running really low on those, but we might be doing some crock pot things, and I might start bringing, you know what I'll probably do? I'll probably start a crock pot meal I'm rambling, but we'll start a crock pot meal tomorrow probably, and then I'll bring it up here and bring all the sides and everything that we can eat up here for dinner because we'll be here a lot. So Josh and I are gonna share a Caesar salad, and then we went to our new local pizza place to us, and we got pizza. So that is gonna be our dinner. And we have no plate. Oh, we do have plates. I think we have plates. Didn't we have paper plates? Oh yeah, and we have a fork, which is good. The first night we had the house, my sister came over and my mom and dad and surprised us with a dinner. My brother-in-law grilled on his truck. He's got a grill that attaches to his truck for tailgating, and they left a couple paper plates for us. We just finished a wonderful dinner, and we've been talking and regrouping. Josh is gonna finish measuring the trim, and I'm gonna take care of the hallway mess because this is what we were able to get done tonight. We got the hall all done, and the laundry room is almost done. We also got one of the bedrooms and one of the bathrooms done. So let's get this swept up, cleaned up, and then we have an early morning tomorrow at the trim store.
If you all have any recommendations on warm gray colors, the ones that I put on the walls, if you had one you liked or didn't like, or if you have a different gray color you would recommend, I would greatly appreciate it. Because we decided to do this whole project, it's definitely going to push painting back a little bit, so I have a little bit of time to decide, and so any input would be appreciated. I just want to say thank you for taking time out of your day. There'll be some more videos here that will pop up. You can go enjoy those between now and my next upload. I hope you guys are having a fantastic day, and I can't wait to see you next time. Bye, friends.